Hi guys, welcome back to Clare's Kingdom, where we talk facts, walk fierce, and remind the world that well-behaved women rarely make history. Okay, so today I'm here with a quick one. So I've just come back from my walk, my midday/afternoon walk, and I've just been reflecting on life and setbacks and the trials, the doors, the opportunities, the doubt from people, external forces such as, authority figures, teachers, family, friends. So recently I've been kind of in a situation that I realized has been a bit of a recurring theme in my life, and that is dealing with, say, authority figures or people that have a say over vital decisions, whether that's education, judgment, academia, all these things, right? And I found that a lot of the time, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, teachers telling me I wasn't capable, or I wouldn't make it past a certain point, or that I wouldn't make it past a certain grade, or I just wasn't smart enough, I just wasn't good enough, or I just wasn't intelligent enough, which is ironic because from a young age I clearly showed signs of great intelligence, and I know I'm a very intelligent woman in the most humblest of way. And even when as a child I was always ahead of my peers in terms of like my reading age and just capabilities, to the point where they had to cap my learning because I was learning too quickly for my age grade, or like I was going into content that was above my maturity levels. So even my primary school at some point had to cap my learning, and that followed me through later stages of the education system, right? And even now getting to the point of like university, college, all these things. I think it was about high school. That's where things really started to shift, when I found that teachers would speak down on me or talk down on me, wouldn't support me, tell me I couldn't achieve certain grades if I was underachieving to what I thought was underachievement. And that was a reoccurring theme even with later stages of education. And recently I've been in a position where, yet again, I nearly ignored it, because in the past, especially with these like education systems, things can be very subjective. Even though they're supposed to follow these, procedures or processes, I still found that these teachers will have their own biases, or even like professors or people on the authority will have their own biases against me for whatever reason. Some may be even inappropriate biases, which is another story for another day. But I found that their marking or their judgments about me were just not accurate. I even see the difference of treatment between me and other, let's say, pupils or students or colleagues, people in the room. And the worst part was not being able to just prove it. Like, you can't really point it out. A lot of the time when you're at the end of these things, you can't really say like, this person's treating me differently, or this person's marking biasly, or all these things, right? And I got to a point where I thought, you get to a certain age, college, university, these things will like they would stop, or there'll be less of that. But I realized, like, no, it's the same pattern. And realizing that these systems are not meant to hold powerful people, intelligent people, visionaries, leaders, because they expect you to act within the lines. And I realized even in my university days, with a specific lecturer, or this man would give us options to work with groups or work alone. And knowing me, I'm a lone wolf. I prefer to work alone, like 100%, especially when people are unreliable, or you just want to work by yourself. But this teacher clearly had a preference of group work, and they made that very clear in the way that they would address the class, and basically say it's not good to work alone, making these indirect statements that you need to learn how to work with people and teams. And don't get me wrong, I can work in groups and teams, but I was the only one in that course or that module that didn't pick. I was the only one in that module that didn't pick a team, pick a group. And ultimately they punished me for that in very subtle ways. And you saw that in the way the group work or the project was marked, and the way their commentary was. You could clearly see bias, and they were much stricter, or they were much harsher marking my work. And I'm sure you guys have experienced this even in the workplace or whatnot, where your independence, your autonomy is punished. You choosing to be quiet or independent, be to yourself, is punished. Ironically, these traits are actually very praised in the real world. In the real world, people value competence, intelligence, privacy, selectivity. These things are actually very high value traits to have. So I really had this epiphany, like, wow, like these systems, the education system, the different systems in the world, patriarchy, like these systems are not meant to hold us. These systems are not meant to serve us, because most people fall in line. Most people have no problem meshing with, within groups and working with groups and doing what the lecturer or convener, teacher, boss, manager, whoever it is, most people are willing to fall in line. But I learned even in the hard ways that you have to, like, the system isn't made for expansive minds. And it makes sense, because if you think about it, even the successful people of the world, powerful people in the world, when you hear their stories, they always talk about how they either dropped out of college, or they had limited experience in school, or they were just never valued. Their intellect, it may not have been the book smart, but it was world smart, it was street smart, it was intelligence, it was emotional intelligence, social intelligence, just different types of intelligences that are not valued in the education system. And today's message is just to say that if you ever feel like you're failing within a system, sometimes you're not the problem. It's that system that doesn't serve you. It wasn't made for you. Even as women of color, you're gonna find out, and you've probably seen even in micro ways, that this system was not made for us. It was not made for you. And this is not necessarily just a physical feature thing, just your mind being different. Like, I just posted a video about why powerful women are dangerous to the system. Go watch that video, based on the character Trish from Divergent, because her mind works in a million ways. She could not be controlled, and that made her a threat. I've seen that in 4K in my own life, and I'm sure you guys have too. This is just your reminder. Don't feel bad if you feel like you're not measuring up to society. You're not measuring up to what society deems as successful, whether that's, education. And don't get me wrong, you can learn to work within the system. You can learn to, keep your head down, learn to just, get through it. But my point is to not let yourself be defined by it, because ironically, one of the parts of the course that was even me getting scrutinized is one of the things that I'm so strong in the world. Like, and that's when I got to a point where this is not even personal at this point. Like, this is just a systemic error. And as much as, yes, you can fight for it, you can advocate for yourself, and you can try fight for justice, but I just find at the end of the day, key point remains that the system wasn't made to hold me. Like, this system was not made to recognize me, and it wasn't made to recognize you for the most part. So don't get me wrong, like, collect your education, get your degrees, get your masters, get whatever you need or you want, but see them more as tools than something to define you, because we know that there's already so many factors that affect educational work, milestone outcomes, and that could be down to gender, race, religion, whatever that case may be. So yeah, I think the moral of the story is just don't let these things define you, because the thing that people attack the most, and I'm gonna stand by this, and I've heard even your Level Up crew talk about this, so go watch her channel, guys. The thing that people attack the most is probably the thing that is the most powerful thing about you. And if you're a woman listening to me today and you found that your intelligence has been attacked from a young age, since before you could even speak, even as a teen, as a grown adult, if you found that your intelligence has been attacked, whether that's within the education system, whether that's within your own home, your friends, just your environment, that should tell you something. And even as I'm saying this, like, I'm speaking to myself, because wow, not even in a self-inflating or egoic way or egocentric way, but it's like, wow, I must be so smart, I must be so diligent, strategic, because how and why is this area of my life constantly under attack? Especially when it doesn't make sense, because of course you get emotional, say, I deserve this grade, or I deserve this, outcome. But genuinely speaking, when you see the inconsistencies and you're like, how? Even before I even had the chance to try, you're already telling me it's not going to work, or that I'm going to be stacking shelves, or like this is not going to work for me. It's like, wow, like there must be something great inside me, because you don't see people acting like that to actual mediocre, actually unintelligent people. In fact, you see people hyping those people up, giving them flowers, supporting them. You don't see people that they're not threatened by scrutinized like this. And that's one thing it took me so long to really understand, why is it that people that do the bare minimum get so praised and liked, and someone who can put their all in it, clearly have the actual raw talent, gets overlooked or scrutinized or bullied. And I'm like, wow, it's such a lethal paradox of life. People really break down the things that are actually valid, that are actually authentic, but then they'll celebrate the thing that's mediocre, if I'm going to put it plainly. And I learned this the hard way. If you ever feel like you see the world differently, or you feel like you value things like competence and efficiency, and others look at you like you're some sort of Machiavellian, people have looked at me like that. I always talk about Olivia Pope on this channel, and I really admire and have even been adapting her mindset in my own life, to the point where if I even am working in groups, I value objectivity, efficiency, competence. And I remember expressing that within my uni cohort, and everyone looked at me like I was some sort of villain. They were basically trying to say that I was controlling. They didn't say it outright, but trying to imply that I was arrogant or controlling. I'm like, oh baby, no, it's definitely not my people. It's I feel like a lot of the world have this, flowers and rainbows mindset. No, let's work together in harmony, and there's nothing wrong with that, don't get me wrong. But when it comes to things, especially like business and work and building something for yourself, there's no room for flowers and rainbows and trying to be understanding of things that don't matter, if that makes sense. And I think even the ability to be objective, like being able to choose the best option, even if it's not what you would have personally wanted, but just being able to objectively choose the best thing and not be emotional, especially that trait on a woman, it's literally intimidating to people, to society, to systems. So yeah, guys, if you ever feel like you were being punished for your intellect or your competence, ability to see through or past systems or even rise above it, because more likely you are too big for that place. And yeah, just get what you need, get the education, get the degree, and even the job. Get in there, get out, get your paycheck, and just keep it stepping until you're in a place where you can live the life you want to live. Be the boss. I always say be the boss of your own life, period. But if you're in a season where you're in an education system or you're in a working environment, just keep going. Don't stay there. Get to a place where you can build your own life, be the leader of your own life, and thrive in your own system. You don't fit in the system because you are here to create your own. And not to drag on, the reason why I even mentioned the whole lecture being subjective, because even in previous modules that I had, specifically, you know, in law, business law, I had more objective markers or objective over me. And just to add context, the reason why I even said I'm able to recognize when a lecturer or teacher is being subjective or marking biasy, because I have a very strong record and, you know, markings, essays and assignments and projects and stuff. And with modules like law, business law, there were assignments where, let's say, maybe I drifted off the original question, or maybe I didn't actually focus directly on the question, where I was still awarded high marks because the lecturers or the teachers themselves will say it was so good that they still had to give a great grade, because the writing itself, the way I piece things together, it shows more than just reading, you know, academia, reading text. It's more how I put things together, how I structure and all these things. Going from that to see certain other lecturers or professors try to say that I'm incompetent, there's gaps in my knowledge, no range, trying to say I didn't know how to structure an essay, like it's such a reach, and it gets to a point where you can't even be offended. You just have to laugh at it, like you just have to laugh and do your best to advocate for yourself, and other than that, let it go and let God, and just get what you have to get and go, because it's just ridiculous. And the reason why some may say that the reason why this other lecturer was more stricter or harsher was because they may have different standards or, you know, ways of writing. And even me, I even put it through ChatGPT, because, you know, ChatGPT be giving good advice sometimes. I even put it through ChatGPT, and ChatGPT even said that certain lecturers may not value the actual intellect, and perhaps they were expecting more textbook heavy content or writing, who knows. And that just goes back to my point to say that in this world, your intellect, the way you piece things together, your natural organization skills, your natural way of phrasing things or putting things in a way that the average person doesn't, is not valued in the education system. And for that reason, you may be told or felt to feel dumb or stupid, when that is literally not the case. Because one thing that I had to come to terms with, a lot of the time, even people that end up getting these high grades or these high accolades or recognitions within the education system, where do they end up? And I know it's cliche, and I'm not saying it's bad to get good grades or high grades. Of course, we're high achievers around here. But my point is, when you make that your personality, when you make that your worth, or you define yourself by that, you lose your power. Especially because many of those people end up just working for other people. Nothing wrong with that if that's your prerogative, but those people end up under someone, or some may even end up unemployed, some may end up, I don't know. And I don't know if it's a cliche phrase when they say the A students will end up working for the C students. And I'm not saying that anyone is better than the other, but it's like kind of the idea that what's valued in the education system, what's valued in terms of, you know, the text or specific literature, is not necessarily it's not necessarily the thing that will bring you forward into the life you want to live or your wealth. But at the same time, like I said, it's good to have these things as tools. It's good to be educated. It's good to have your degrees, your certifications. These things are tools. That's the difference. They're tools, not identity. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is something that's just been on my heart, and I just thought I would share. So yeah, comment down below if you can relate in any way. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.